Our topic for today is cost, volume, profit, or CVP analysis. To understand this topic, let's review the variable costing income statement, which we discussed last meeting. The variable costing income statement is the format of the income statement that we will use all throughout the discussion of MAS. Okay, we start with sales minus variable cost. We know the difference is what we call contribution margin minus fixed cost. This is your profit. In the variable costing income statement, the focus is on the nature of the cost, which is variable and fixed. And we know this consists of the manufacturing cost and the selling and admin. The manufacturing cost is your product or inventoriable cost, while selling and admin is your period or operating expenses. Same for your fixed costs. Okay, it also consists of manufacturing cost and selling and admin. Okay, when you say CVP analysis, basically this is about relationships among the cost, which is the variable and fixed, the volume, which is basically the units sold and produced, and the profit, which is, we know profit is your income. Okay, in CVP analysis, it's very important to know the following formulas. Usually ito lang yung mga itatanong sa'yo in CVP analysis. Number one is the computation of break-even point. Okay, the break-even point can be computed in units or in pesos. Okay, when you say break-even point, this is the unit sales or peso sales in order for you to cover your cost, which is your variable and fixed cost. Okay, it means at break-even point, your profit is equal to 0. All right. Also, at break-even point, tama ba, when your profit is equal to 0, it means your sales is equal to the sum of the variable cost and fixed cost. Okay, at break-even point, sales is equal to variable cost plus fixed cost. And in this formula, tama ba, when we say at break-even point, CM or contribution margin is also equal to fixed cost, because if this is equal to this, then our profit is 0. Okay, so at break-even point, the profit is 0, sales is equal to variable cost plus fixed cost, and contribution margin is equal to fixed cost. So in MAS, dapat ma-understand mo yung formula behind this. Okay, why is it ganun yung formula? So let's see what's the formula for break-even point. If it's in units, the break-even point is fixed cost over contribution margin per unit. Okay, if it's in pesos, the formula is fixed cost over contribution margin ratio, or CMR. CMR is computed as CM over sales. Okay, so here in CVP analysis, pag sinabing ratio, okay, in this case CMR, your denominator is always sales. Okay, based on this formula, tama ba, which is better, lower or higher break-even point? Obviously, it's lower. It means mas konti yung kailangan mo ibenta to cover your cost. Got it? Okay, also in this formula, how do we lower the break-even point? We can decrease the fixed cost, or we can increase the contribution margin. Got it? Okay, so that's for the break-even point. Number 2 is the computation of the desired profit or the target profit. Okay, this can be computed in units and in pesos. Okay, actually, yung desired profit is just a variation of your formulas for break-even point. Okay, so ganito gagawin natin. Let's go back to this one pala. So remember, if it's in units, okay, break-even point in units, your denominator is per unit. Okay, if it's in pesos, your denominator is in ratio. Okay, now let's go back to the desired profit. What is your formula if it's the desired profit or unit sales to achieve this desired profit? Fixed cost plus desired profit, okay, divided by CM per unit. So parang ganito rin siya, except that we added desired profit in your numerator. And take note that your desired profit here is your income before tax. Very important. Okay? Remember this. Your desired profit here is income before tax. It means, if given ka ng tax rate, kailangan i-gross up mo siya. Tama? How do you gross up? You divide it by 1 minus tax rate. Okay? Now, in pesos, variation lang din siya. Fixed cost plus desired profit over CM ratio. Okay? Fixed cost plus desired profit divided by CM ratio. That's your desired profit or your unit sales to achieve the desired profit, or the peso sales to achieve the desired profit. Got it? Okay. Next formula is what we call margin of safety. Okay. Margin of safety. Margin of safety can be in units, it can be in pesos, or it can be compute for the margin of safety ratio. Okay, sir, what is margin of safety? Basically, this is the buffer in your sales. Okay, and in this formula, yung formula actually for the margin of safety is sales less break-even sales. Okay, break-even sales in units. Lagyan natin in units. Okay, kasi margin of safety in units. Sales in units less break-even point in units. Okay, break-even sales in units. Okay, sir, ano yung sales na yan? This can be your actual, your planned, or budgeted sales. Okay, less the break-even point in units, then that's your margin of safety in units. As you can see, if mas mataas yung margin of safety natin, the better, because it means mas mataas yung actual sales natin compared to our break-even sales. It means also that our profit is higher. Okay, so the higher the margin of safety, then the better to our income statement, to our profit. Okay, now how do you compute for the margin of safety in pesos? Sales in pesos less break-even point in pesos. All right. Okay, and then margin of safety ratio, like what I explained to you earlier, pag sinabing ratio, your denominator is sales. Okay, how do you compute for margin of safety ratio? Margin of safety divided by your sales. Again, your sales can be actual sales, planned sales, or budgeted sales. Okay, as you can see, to compute for the margin of safety, kailangan alam mo muna yung break-even point. So dapat you have to know this formula. Got it? Okay, and the number 4 in CVP analysis is basically sensitivity analysis. We change the variables and we see the effect to the profit. Okay, we can change the selling price, we can change the variable cost, we can change the fixed cost, or the volume. Volume, it means the units produced or sold, or we can also change the sales mix. Sir, what is sales mix? Sales mix, this applies when you have multiple products. For example, you're selling products A, B, and C. Okay, and on the average, you sell 1:1:2. Okay, you call this a sales mix. On the average, we sell 1 unit of A, 1 unit of B, and 2 units of C. All right. So, ayan, that's a CVP analysis. Let's do some exercises. Let's start with theory first. Let's start with theory. Last nyo sa akin, may theory pa kayo, ha? Ayan. Let's go to number 1. The systematic examination of the relationships among selling prices, volume of sales, and production, costs, and profits is termed. So, syempre naman, yung topic natin for today, CVP analysis. Okay. Number 2, at the break-even point, fixed cost is always, okay, discuss natin earlier yan. At break-even point, fixed cost natin is equal to your contribution margin. Letter B. Okay, cost volume profit analysis is a key factor in many decisions, including choice of product lines, pricing of products, marketing strategy, and utilization of product facilities. A calculation used in CVP analysis is the break-even point. Once the break-even point has been reached, operating income will increase by, let's analyze that. So once we reach the break-even point, it means once we cover the fixed cost, okay, ano na yung magiging effect to our profit? The effect to our profit is the contribution margin. Tama ba? So every time na magbebenta ka, kasi na-cover mo na yung fixed cost, it means yung effect to the profit is basically your contribution margin. Got it? Okay, that's why answer here is letter B, contribution margin per unit for each additional unit sold. Okay, number 4, to reduce the break-even point. The company may, okay, kaya kailangan alam mo yung formula. Tama ba? How do you reduce this? You can reduce the fixed cost. We can increase the contribution margin per unit. And we know the lower the break-even point, the better. Okay, answer here is letter C, decrease the fixed cost and increase the contribution margin. Which of the following assumptions does not pertain to CVP analysis? So does not pertain to CVP analysis. Inventories are constant. Yes, this is one of the assumptions. Total revenue function is linear. So it means your selling price is constant. This is also true. All costs are classified as fixed or variable. That's correct. The units produced will equal the units sold. This is also correct. What is the implication of letter D? If units produced is equal to your units sold, it means no beginning or ending inventory. Tama ba? So in CVP analysis, one of the assumptions is there's no beginning or ending inventory. Okay? Sales mix may vary during the related period. That's incorrect. So the assumption in CVP analysis is sales mix is constant, okay, during the period. Answer here is letter E. Alright? Next, the margin of safety is a key concept of CVP analysis. The margin of safety is, natutunan natin yan. Margin of safety, basically the difference between your sales and the break-even sales. And we know, the higher the margin of safety, the better. Okay, the difference between budgeted sales and break-even sales. Again, this can be actual, budgeted, or planned sales. Got it? Answer is letter D. The rate or amount the sales may decline before losses are incurred is called. Answer here is margin of safety. Okay? So it means, ayan, kasi once your sales is lower than the break-even sales, then you have a loss. Okay? That's your margin of safety. That's why the higher the margin of safety, the better.
Last, if you appreciate this free accounting tutorial, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you get notified whenever I have a new video.
Alright, let's move on to our computations for today. And problems naman. I prepared one medium problem and two short problems. Okay, let's read. Let's read first the questions. So 5 questions for the medium problem. Unit contribution margin ratio, variable cost ratio, break-even point in units and in pesos, margin of safety in units, pesos, and margin of safety ratio, net profit ratio. If sales increase by 450,000, how much would you expect profit to increase? And then we have 2 problems here. Alright. Pinnacle company produces a product that has the following data per annum. Unit sales price, 400 per unit. Unit variable cost, 260 per unit. Fixed cost, 7 million. Units sold, 70,000. Okay, let's go to a unit contribution margin, or CM per unit. Okay, we know CM is just very easy. Selling price less the variable cost. 400 minus 260, you have here 140. Lagay natin dito. For a unit contribution margin, our answer is 140. Okay. Contribution margin ratio, again, if it's ratio, we divide it by the selling price. 140. Okay. 140 divided by, what's the selling price? 400. 35%. Okay. 35%, our CMR. Variable cost ratio. So, ano naman yung variable cost ratio? It's just your unit variable cost divided by 400. So, 260, or the selling price. 260 divided by 400. Let's see, 260 divided by 400. You get 65%. Easy. 65%. Tama ba? Your variable cost ratio is just equal to 1 minus the CMR. Is that always correct? Yes. Okay. So 1 minus CMR, 1 minus 35% is 65%, because sales minus variable cost is equal to CM. It means sales is equal to variable cost plus CM. Okay, so that's why variable cost is equal to 1 minus CMR. 1 minus 35%, 65%. Okay, that's your variable cost ratio. Final answers, 140, 35%, and 65%. Okay, let's go to letter B, break-even point in units and in pesos. So, yung units muna. Okay, units, we know the formula is fixed cost. Okay, fixed cost is 7 million. 7 million divided by CM per unit. We computed it's 140. Okay, let's compute 7 million divided by 140. 7 million divided by 140. You get here 50,000. Okay, this is 50,000. Pero take note, this is 50,000 units. Baka dun ka pa magkamali. In the choices, baka may nakalagay doon 50,000 pesos, 50,000 units. So be careful. If your denominator is CM per unit, okay, if it's unit, the result is number of units. Got it? Okay. In pesos, okay, in pesos, our formula is fixed cost 7 million divided by CM ratio. We computed CM ratio earlier at 35%. Okay, 7 million divided by 35%. Let's compute 7 million divided by 0.35. 20 million. Okay, 20 million. Lagay natin pesos and para clear. Okay, so our break-even point in pesos is 20 million. Got it? So fixed cost divided by CM ratio. Let's go to letter C. Okay, letter C, margin of safety in units. Margin of safety in units. Okay, actual sales. Ano yung actual sales natin? Well, basically, meron tayong 70,000 units. Okay, minus our break-even sales. Siyempre, kung units yan, units din gamitin natin for break-even. 50,000, we computed from letter B. Hindi natin kinompute kasi na-compute natin earlier. But again, to compute for the margin of safety, you have to know how to compute for the break-even point. Got it? 70,000 minus 50,000, you get here 20,000 units. Okay, this is your margin of safety in units. It means pwede ka, yung buffer mo in order for you to incur loss is 20,000 units. Okay? Pwedeng bumaba yung sales mo up to 20,000 and yet you still have zero profit or hindi ka mag-incur ng loss. Got it? Okay. Units and in pesos naman, what is our actual sales? Well, you have 70,000 units and then kailangan natin pesos. We multiply that by the selling price, right? 70,000 times 400, actually that's 28 million. Okay, 28 million less break-even point in pesos, which we computed from letter B, 20 million. We have here 8 million, lagay ko pesos. Okay, our margin of safety in pesos is 8 million. Okay, it means pwedeng bumaba yung sales natin up to 8 million pesos before we incur losses. Okay, margin of safety ratio. Okay, so ratio naman is our margin of safety. Okay, well, pwede natin gamitin is pwedeng units or in pesos. Same lang makukuha natin dyan. Let's use the units. Our margin of safety in units, 20,000. Okay, so 20 divided by 70. Okay, so 20 divided by 70, 20 divided by 70, we get here 28.57%. Okay, 28.57%. Okay, this is our margin of safety ratio. Final answers, 20,000 units, 8 million pesos, 28.57%. Okay. Letter D, net profit ratio. Net profit ratio. Well, we have to compute for the profit. How do you compute for the profit? So yeah, so meron tayong units sold, tama ba? Gagawin ko lang dyan, units sold times contribution margin of 140 and then ma-minus ko yung fixed cost. Sige nga, 70,000 times CM per unit of 140 times 140 minus fixed cost of 7 million. 7 million. Tama ba? Our profit is 2.8 million, right? 2.8 million yung profit and we know our sales is 28 million, right? So, sir, sum mo na ko 28 million. 70,000 times 400. That's your sales. Got it? So 2.8 million of profit, we divide this by 28 million, obviously that's 10%. Okay, our profit ratio, net profit ratio is 10%. Okay, 2.8 million divided by 28 million. So that's your net profit ratio. Again, if it's ratio, your denominator is always sales. Well, for CVP analysis. Let's go to letter E. Okay. If sales increase by 450,000, how much would you expect profit to increase? This is an example of sensitivity analysis. Tama. So, example siya of your sensitivity analysis. If sales increase by 450, how much would you expect profit to increase? Well, you can recompute the income statement, pero we know from these numbers na you have a profit. Tama? Yung profit natin is 2.8 million. Na-compute natin for letter D. It means, yung increase of in your sales, let's go back to the formula. Since alam natin na may profit tayo, whenever magbebenta ka, for each additional unit, you know na yung effect of the profit is equal to your contribution margin, right? Because na-cover na natin yung fixed cost. It means, the fastest way to compute for this is basically 450,000 sales, multiply ko lang yan by the CM ratio of 35%, okay? Since again, once ma-cover mo na yung fixed cost, yung effect to your profit is basically equal to your contribution margin. If this is sales, this is the CM ratio, 35%. We multiply 450,000 times 0.35. You get here 157,500. Okay? The increase in your profit, if your sales increased by 450,000, is 157,500. Okay. Let's move on to our 2 remaining exercises. Okay, very easy. Modern Ink sells a product to retailers for 200. The unit variable cost is 40 with a selling commission of 10%. Is the selling commission fixed or variable? Obviously, variable because it's based on your sales. Fixed manufacturing cost, 1 million per month. Fixed selling and admin, 420,000. Income tax rate is 30%. The target sales if after tax income is 123,200 would be, okay. Just to recap, para lang din siyang break-even point except that we add the desired profit. And highlight ko earlier, your desired profit should be income before tax. Okay. Fixed cost, or numerator muna. Fixed cost is 1 million plus 420,000. 1,420,000. Plus, our desired income is 123,200. I-gross up natin siya. Since tax rate mo is 30%, we use 70%. 123,200. 123,200 divided by 0.7, you get 176,000 plus 176,000 because in the choices, as you notice, units yan. It means our denominator should be CM per unit. Got it? So let's compute. How do you compute for the CM per unit? Well, meron kang selling price of 200. You have variable cost of 40. Pero hindi lang yung variable cost, you still have selling commission, right? 10% daw, so it means 10% of the selling price, which is 20. Got it? 200 minus 40 minus 20, you get here 140. 1,420,000 plus 176,000 divided by 140. See, let's see. 1,420,000 plus 176,000 divided by 140, you get 11,400 units, which is 400 units, letter P. Okay. Okay, First Class Corp. First Class Corp. So you have Pinnacle, you have Modern, you have First Class. First Class Corp has sales of 200,000, contribution margin of 20%, and the margin of safety of 80,000. What is First Class Corp's fixed cost? Okay, we have to know yung formula natin for margin of safety because we're given margin of safety of 80,000, right? So to recap, margin of safety is equal to your actual sales or planned sales less your break-even point, right? And plug in lang natin yung formula. Margin of safety is 80,000. 80,000 is equal to sales 200,000, right? Minus break-even point. Break-even point, we have, well, yung fixed cost hindi natin alam because there's a question. So fixed cost, lagay lang natin sa numerator, divide by CMR of 20%. Okay, so algebra lang. Actually, in CVP analysis, especially in answering sensitivity analysis, algebra yung ginagamit namin dyan. Okay, so how do you compute for the fixed cost? Basic algebra, paano mo may eliminate yung 20%? You multiply yung 80,000 by 20%, right? 200,000 by 20%. 80,000 times 20%, that's 16,000. 200,000 times 20%, that's 40,000. Minus fixed cost. Got it? So if i-shuffle natin siya, tama ba? Your fixed cost is equal to 40 minus 16,000, 24,000. Letter B.
That's the end of this free tutorial. Patikim pa lang yan. What if you are selling multiple products with sales mix? How do you compute the break-even point and margin of safety? What if graphical approach naman pinapagawa sa atin sa problem? How do you compute for the profit if you're given the profit ratio, margin of safety ratio, and the break-even point ratio? Turo namin lahat yan. In Pinnacle, regardless of your accounting background, we will provide you with the most efficient and effective review by focusing on best review strategies, key points to remember, shortcuts, common tricks, and mistakes. For reservation and to know more about us, visit our website and Facebook page. All the links are in the description below. Reserve now because we only accept limited number of students in order to preserve the quality of our review. Class dismissed. See you next meeting.